office on the lot. I was very successful. And they said, it's a really good script, Paul. What's it about? And what do you mean it's about? I said, it's about this funny idea, and it's about this clever line, and this plot twist. And he said, oh yeah, no, that's really good, really clever. But where does it come from within you? What questions are you asking about yourself? I went, fuck, I'm supposed to do that? I had no idea what a writer did. I had no idea. And I went, shit. And so from that point, I can look back and go, that's when I started to become a writer. And I'd already been earning a good living for 10 years by this point. I was 35, I was 34. And I went, oh shit, and I understood what a writer was to do. I mean, men were so stupid. We just don't know. And so at that point I started asking questions and about myself, about what I was curious about, things that troubled me, about myself, and there are many. And so at that point my stories became more complex and better, worse, I don't know, but more introspective. And then finally, that led to a TV series called Easy Streets, which failed completely, but was really great and complex. And then finally, that led to Crash. I just applied the same principles to anything that I wanted to do. And they came to me and asked me to reinvent James Bond. And I went, are you crazy? Have you seen my movies? You know, me, James Bond? What are you talking about? And they said, no, we'd like you to really dig in and change the character and make it different. And I said to my agents, do they understand that if I do James Bond, I will ruin it for everyone forever? You know, I'll just destroy the entire franchise? And they said, I think they know what they're talking to, Paul. I said, okay.
Then the Brexit came after that.
Yeah, exactly. So I did. I wrote it, but I just applied the same questions. I just asked the questions of Bond that I would ask of any character. What's with Bond and women? You know, what pain is in there that makes him act out that way? What's it like to be an assassin? What's it really like? Do you really stand on the top of that building and shoot a laser down here and say a smart line? I don't think so. I think you kill somebody with a knife, you get up close, and no matter how much armor you have around your soul, it affects you forever. So I just applied those rules to this iconic character, and suddenly everything changed. So I do that with everything I do. I just try to say there's no such, and that's what they do very successfully now in Hollywood with the Marvel films and that. They're not cartoons. These are real people put in ridiculous and fabulous situations, and that's what makes these films great. The ones that I love, the superhero films that really succeed, are grounded in those real concepts and those real feelings and those real dilemmas that we all feel. And they just have, latex on, or spandex, whatever.
Yeah. Then you said you've been fired and won 2 Oscars. I hope you get fired quite soon again.
Me too. I need a couple more. Yes.
But how dramatically, or the Oscars, because you got them 2 of them in consecutive, and how dramatically changed your life?
Oh yeah, please. I went from a nobody, because I was a television director and writer, and people would scorn that and say, please, you can't direct this, and to someone who everybody wanted overnight. And yeah, that changes you. When you get that kind of success, though, you have to remember that you're the same failure that you were last week. But my wife, I was married at the time, and she said it very well. She said, you got much better looking after you won the Oscars. It's true, it does change you. But you have to take that new confidence and make sure it does not become arrogance, which happens to many people in their career. They get a little success, they become arrogant, they're ruined as artists. They think that they are that good. We're not that good. We struggle every day. I struggle with a story, I struggle to find a way through, to say something honest, to say it in a good way. The last 2 scripts I wrote, I threw out after a year and a half. They're in a trash can. They're not good enough. I spent a year and a half writing it. They're not good enough. They're in the trash. So you have to know when you fail and when you succeed, and judge yourself by that. Not judge yourself by what others say about you. They can say a film is great. If you don't think it's great, it's fine. but it's not great. If you think everything you do is brilliant, then you very quickly stop becoming an artist. You might become very successful. There's a lot of people in Hollywood that continue to be very successful and are arrogant, but you stop becoming an artist.
I mean, you're a writer, director, also producer, and I know because we talked before that you also right now doing a documentary and co-directing it. And you worked with a lot of directors, really good ones. And from the point of view of a writer, I mean, does sometimes you get disappointed from the director?
Oh, constantly. I mean, you know from the theater that directors and writers have a totally different relationship in theater than they do in film. In the theater, the writer is really respected, or at least in America. I'm sure it is the same here. The theater seems to be the same.
No, in the Eastern Bloc, director is God.
Oh, really?
He can change whatever he wants.
Well, not in America. But there, the writer, the playwright, he's very respected, and they battle it out. But it's his play. In film, television, no. I get fired and replaced all the time. They pay me a fortune, and then they'll throw my script out and bring in somebody else. So what I do is I balance my year. I'll write for others, and they'll pay me a bucket load of money, and then I'll direct something for myself for 2 years, and I'll get paid nothing, or very little, because that's a passion piece. So when someone approaches me with a movie idea to do in a studio or something, I look at and I just simply say, is it something that will hold my attention for 2 to 3 years? Because that's what it's going to take to write and direct this, minimum. And the answer is no, then I say, I'll just write it. It'll take me 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And that's, okay, 6 months of my life. I can give up 6 months of my life to get the money so I can survive for 2 years and do my own project, right? But I balance it off that way. But I have to, I'm writing one right now, a big movie that my partner, a producing partner, Michael Nozick, is actually shooting in Berlin. They offered it to me to direct, but it didn't trouble me enough to want to. I wasn't curious enough about these characters to want to commit 2 years. So I said, no, I'll fix the script for you. I'll write it, and you'll get a good director, and you'll get a good actor.
Do you ever go to the sets of the director who you wrote the script?
Oh, that's the hardest because you see what they're doing then. And you go, no, you got it all wrong. What? You didn't read the script? Why are you doing that? No. So I try not to, and I try not to even see them in the cinema. No, I can't. I mean, there are directors like Martin Campbell, who directed Casino Royale, who did a great job. Or, obviously like Clint Eastwood, who wrote 3 films with him, he did just a great job. But others, not so great. So no, I don't know.
It's because, a lot of actors become good directors. It's because they work with different directors and they kind of steal the skill.
Oh yeah, that's what we all do. We steal from others. That's what we do. That's how we learn. And there's nothing wrong with that. You steal until you are able to have your own thoughts and your own creative things. But in the beginning, we just copy others. I just copied Scorsese or whoever, or Alfred Hitchcock or whoever it was that influenced me, Godard. Just copied them, and then you go, oh, and then you have an original thought, and now I don't watch movies when I'm directing. I don't want to go to the theater. I don't watch them on video. I don't watch. But when you watch actors bring your words to life and bring things out of those words that you never thought were in there, it's fucking magic.
You mentioned the charity that you founded. It's quite interesting. Maybe you can share with us.
Yes. I have a charity that I founded called Artists for Peace and Justice. And I founded this many years ago, right after 9/11, and when America was going crazy and looking for people to bomb. And no one wanted to question the government or the wisdom of the president. And so I would invite great thinkers to come to my house, and I'd invite actors to come and just talk and think. We had wonderful, wonderful people like Howard Zinn, who was a great historian, a radical historian, come, and Noam Chomsky, people like this, and talk. And then, after years, I became very interested in issues of poverty, and so we chose Haiti, we say here, because it was the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and we started to go there, and I bring people down there. And now we do many events every year, Oscars, Toronto Film Festival, London, and we raise like $26 million so far to build major schools. And we have a film academy there, where students graduate after 2 years and earn a living in Haiti making films. You know, small films, industrial films, commercials, sometimes documentaries, features, whatever. You can graduate from film school in Haiti and earn a living, unlike any place else in the world. And we have a music schools there, and a music academy, and a high school for 3,000 children.
We can open the discussion for anyone, for question, for
any kind of question.
Yes.
Mr. Haggis, I don't know if the people here know that you are one of the creators of Call of Duty. I would really like to know, how did you came up with the idea of creating it? Because we talked a lot about movies, and now I would like to know how you came up with the idea of creating the Call of Duty, a great game.
I would like to claim that I did. I didn't. They brought me into, I think, the third one, because they wanted to add a storyline and have an emotional storyline. And I went, wow, that's cool, in a game. How do you do that? And so they'd already created some terrific work, and they'd done all the various scenarios, the game scenarios, and they wanted me to help them string them together into a story and come up with some dialogue and some character work that would deepen it. And it's a fascinating thing, because in a game, the person who you're writing about, the protagonist, you can't see. And so it's all first person. And it's a wonderful puzzle to do that and to figure out how. And then, of course, you can pop out of that first person narrative and do some, stand back and see them interact. But I had a great time. I only worked on it for a month with them, coming up with scenarios and that, but it was a wonderful puzzle. I love doing it. Yeah, very different.
I have one more question, the last one. In one of your previous interviews, you told your personal experience that stands behind Crash. Where do you find the inspiration to write for other movies? I mean, if for the Crash it wasn't personal experience, what is for the others?
Yeah, Crash, I was driving a car just like that. I had bought myself a Porsche. Yeah, I was successful. I was feeling really big about myself. I bought myself a Porsche. And two guys with guns came up to take it away from me with my wife. And so the scenario with Sandra Bullock and her husband in that happened to me. And I just kept thinking about those kids, and I finally wrote about them. With the others, with In the Valley of Ella, which is tonight, right? In the Valley of Ella, we had invaded Iraq. I was protesting in the street. No one was listening. No one cared. There were hundreds of thousands of people in America protesting against that war as well. No one cared. So I said, an artist has a responsibility. And I was being offered, after Crash, I was offered every big movie in Hollywood to direct. And I said, no. I want to do something about the Iraq War. And my agent went, whoa, Paul, no. Because the Iraq War in America in the first 2 years was very popular. Not with me, but with a lot of people. And our president at the time, and what he was doing was popular, because you all sort of stand behind your president when you're at war, or whatever it is. And I said, not me. So I looked at that, and I looked at the people who supported the war, and I said, I am not, and I looked at the news, and I said, I am not going to get Americans to care about the Iraqis. Because having done Crash, having thought a lot about racism, intolerance, I know how we judge other people. As human beings, not just as Americans, as human beings. We love, and you've experienced this certainly here, we love to break ourselves into groups and call our group superior and find how we are victimized by others. We all do it. Everybody in the world does it. It's part of our deep DNA, it's part of our subconscious. And many studies have been done over this for the last 150 years. So I knew that I couldn't get the American people to have empathy for the Iraqis because, you know, their skin was darker, they dressed funny, they talked a whole weird language we didn't understand. They're not us. So I said, okay. We didn't even count the Iraqi dead then. We didn't even count them. We only counted ourselves, our own, on the news. Even on the liberal news, they'd say, you know, 17 soldiers died today, American U.S. troops. How many Iraqis? We have no idea. We don't care. So I said, if I can't get them to care about the Iraqi dead, what about our own soldiers? Can I get them to care about them? Well, yes, we support our troops. Of course we care. Yeah. Do you care what violence does to not just the person that violence is perpetrated against, but to the person who perpetrates violence? So unlike other filmmakers who were at the time were going to go out and make films about how terrible the American troops were, because a few people wanted to say, oh, they're monsters, etc. I said, no, these people are heroes. They volunteered. They thought they were David going to fight Goliath, this terrible, terrible monster who was killing his own people in Iraq. Which was true. He was killing his own people. He's a terrible man. But, so I said, what happens, and it's a question I came up with, what happens to a man or woman who goes someplace thinking they are David fighting Goliath, only to find out that they're Goliath? What if a hero goes off to be heroic, only to discover that they are the villain? What does that do to a good person? Not what does it do to a monster, what does that do to a good person? And I went, wow, I think that would destroy them. And we were starting to see at the time men coming home from the Iraq War with PTSD. The things they were doing they couldn't handle. And I went, ah. So I'm looking for a story, a true story, reading everything about that, until I found this little short story by Mark, this piece of reporting by Mark Bowl, who at the time was a reporter who had been embedded with troops in Iraq. And it was a true story about a man who'd come home from the war, and his father, and was killed, and his father who went looking for his murderers. And I decided to do that story, and against everyone's advice. Even the studio that made it. And Clint Eastwood helped me get the studio to do that, but the studio just threw it out into the theaters. They knew no one wanted to see this movie. But I'm very proud of it. So that was the way. And then I asked many questions about that. Because in the story, the piece of reporting, the father really thought of his son as a hero, that and something terrible, villains must have done something to him. And I want to look at what happens when that young man who went there as a hero did something that he couldn't live with, and then himself became the villain in order to react to those things. He just, in order to, because of that violence, it affected him so deeply that he began perpetrating that violence on others. And when you're writing about a real story, real person, they asked me, do I want to meet this, the father? And I said no, because I'm going to break his heart. Because I'm going to tell the story exactly as it happened, but I'm not going to tell it the way he wants. And so I didn't meet him while I was writing it, and when he read it, when he was furious. Terrible. But this is very important. As a writer, you have to be willing to break everybody's hearts. You have to be willing to expose not just yourself, but others. So in the end, he liked it very much because he understood how complex the issues were and how his son was still a hero. It was the situation, it was war that made him into a person that was no longer, could be even it was hard to even recognize him as a human being. So that's the example of how I go looking for something. Other times I just go like this new one, I want to do a film noir. And I go looking for something, I'm writing a film noir right now. and I go looking for something, a new way to tell a film noir piece. Yeah, and then I find the characters within that, and I find the dilemma. But I have to find something that troubles me inside of the questions that trouble me, things I'm not sure about. I keep going until I find those. And right now I'm thinking, shit, I haven't found it in that movie yet. Yes, I have my ex-wife, the one who got robbed in the car with me, is still my best friend. She reads many scripts for me. Deborah, she's great, is a playwright. Then I read some, and yes, and then if she recommends something, I read it. Luckily, she's a very quick reader. I'm not.
Trust her?
Very much, completely, yeah. Now, so my ex-wife, Deborah, who's a wonderful woman, when we were married, she'd read my scripts. And she had a rule. She said, Paul, if you think your scripts are bad, they're bad. If you think your script is good, it's bad. If you just don't know, it's good. And it's usually the case. I'm like, oh, this is great. She goes, no. As this is bad, she goes, yeah, you're right. I go, I don't know. She goes, no, it's great.
Regarding the inspiration and creativity as a screenwriter, many artists, such as actors or directors or even screenwriters, they sometimes wait for the moment to come. In this sense, I would like to know, from your perspective, is it about the moment and wait for it to get recognition from the movie industry or write or creativity, or is it more about the hard work and...
Yeah, I am in pain anytime I do not have either an idea or I'm working on an idea. I have this terrible guilt that drives me when I'm not creating. I feel like I'm wasting my life. And that could be if I finished writing a script yesterday and I have nothing to do today. I feel like, fuck, I'm wasting my life. What am I writing? What am I doing? Obviously there's ways to fool yourself. You come to film festivals and you talk about how great you are. That's a good thing. But other than that, very soon, like just now when I was answering this question, I started saying, fuck. And I was writing last night. But this morning, like, fuck, I'm not really doing anything. So, yes, it's about driving yourself constantly or being driven. I think it's not a good thing. It's a neurosis. But unless you're that neurotic, I don't think you're an artist. I think you have to be driven, and you can't sit around and go, oh, I'll have a coffee and think about it. No. You get out, you find the story, you look for the story, and if you don't, you at least know that you should be looking for the story, and you feel shitty because you're not doing it. And you feel haunted that you're not working that second. And so it's not then, as a result of that being haunted, you then work harder. You don't just get to be haunted and sit around and be a romantic writer in cafes. No, you have to find the story. You have to work hard. You have to. Then once you find the story, you have to dig into it and twist it and make it. It takes forever sometimes to come up with a story. It can take years, working, thinking, trying to get it right. Take years sometimes, or sometimes it just falls together. But yeah, anytime I'm not working, I'm haunted, and when I'm haunted, I feel compelled I have to work. So I sit and I write, and I have nothing. If I have nothing to write, I write. And if I have no ideas coming, I write, and until something finally comes, and then and as soon as I finish a script and I have it ready to go, I start something new. And I don't wait to be paid. I don't wait for anyone to agree. I write, so I do.
You wrote Crash
Yeah.
to bust the liberals. Can you
Yeah.
explain that?
No. Everyone has a different interpretation of Crash and what it's about. And is it about racism? Is it about bad people? It's about many things, but I don't like pointing the fingers at others. I think it's so easy for us to do as human beings, to say good person, bad person. Why? Because, I don't know, your beard is better than mine. I don't fucking know. So good person, bad person. I like to look inside and say, what am I doing? What am I guilty of? When I think someone else is guilty of something, how am I doing that? because it's something that we just don't do that often. It's so easy for us to paint ourselves as heroes and others as villains, because many times they're very villainous. So it's not that it's not true, it's just easy, and I don't like doing things that are easy. So with Crash, I'm a big liberal, I'm a big activist, I'm a human rights activist, etc. Okay, now how am I guilty of intolerance? How am I guilty of racism? How am I guilty of pride and of arrogance? And how does that play out in a daily life? And I figured if I could look at myself and say, okay, it's not the person I can identify as a villain who's a villain. That's too easy. Okay, he's a racist and he's from the South of, he's in the KKK. That's easy. How are the liberals, people like me, how are they guilty of this thing? Because often, it's just silence. It's just not saying anything or not doing anything when you know that something terrible is happening. It's just going, yeah, that's terrible, and not making an action that is in fact the worst thing at all. And that's what allows terrible people to do things. That's what allows terrible things to happen. That we go, yeah, what can I do about that? And that is born of some sort of tacit agreement with that villainy. Oh, the world is that way, or whatever, or maybe that person deserved it, or whatever. And so I want to dig into myself. Why would I be walking down the street and I see some young black kids dressed like hoods or whatever walking towards me, but it's in Westwood, or someplace, beautiful. Why would I cross the street? Oh, I say, well, it's to get cigarettes. No, it wasn't. I was scared. Why was I scared? These kids are just kids. Why am I scared? Fuck, I don't like that question, right? How am I judging them because of the way they look? How am I judging them because of who they are? What's inside there? Even in the head of this liberal activist, what's there? And if I can dig that out, maybe there's something in all of us that we can talk about. And that's what I wanted to do, find out that intolerance, that as human beings is just a part of who we are. It's something we have to fight every day. Rather than just saying, oh yes, the bad people, they hung people in the South. No, that's too easy. I mean, what do we do in our daily lives that allows racism to continue, that allows monsters like Trump to come to power in America or any place else? How does our inaction, how does our silence, how does our tacit agreement with that play out? And how does our pride affect us? Because I thought pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. Well, wow, why? Pride's a good thing, right? You should be proud. Excess of anything is an evil. So excessive pride says, I'm the good person, you're the bad person. That allows me to do things to you because I'm good, you're bad. Really, let's look at that and see. So that's what I wanted to investigate.
You mentioned politics and how difficult it is. Yeah, we jumped in our favorite subject.
Yeah.
And how difficult is in today's America, let's say, or Hollywood, being political filmmaker, doing a political film. I mean, because we know that in Europe is different kind of fundraising. It's a public money, and in America is private owned. But I mean,
well, you have to understand. Everybody says that Hollywood is very liberal, and it's just not true. It's absolutely not true. Hollywood is about money, and money is always conservative. Is always looking not to offend anybody, because if you offend someone, they're not going to buy tickets. So no, they jump on a bandwagon. Right now, everyone's against Trump. So, oh yes, we're brave, we're against Trump. Oh yeah, where were you? I mean, I was the idiot who was protesting against Obama by that. And they also said, well, it's very depressing. The war is depressing. People want to escape from that. We're not going to invest in something that's depressing. people don't want to think about their lives. They don't want to think about people who are being killed or people what's happening to their own soldiers. They don't want to think about this. That's not box office. And maybe we're right. But as artists, we can't think like that. We have to be brave. And as I think I said, if the artist has to be brave. If we're not brave, we're not artists. Simple as that. And we have to keep testing ourselves because it's so easy for me to get comfortable and just not be brave. Just go along. Just do things that are, easy or that will make me money or whatever. It's so tempting. It's so tempting. I remember talking to Clint Eastwood's wife when I first started working with him. She's like, I don't know, he was 70, she was like 30 something. It was like fabulous, right? And so, he was such a great guy, a wonderful guy. If we had a meeting, he'd drive to my house in his pickup truck and drive me across town. I can't get my assistant to run to get me cigarettes in the corner, but I have Clint Eastwood coming to pick me up in his truck and drive me across town. He's very humble, very, very down to earth. And so I asked his wife, how does he do it? How does he maintain that humility? And she said, he works at it every day. If you're Clint Eastwood, everybody wants to blow smoke up your ass. Everybody wants to tell you what a genius you are. That's the same with success. As you get success, everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody wants to say you're fabulous. Everybody wants to come up. No one comes up to you and tells you the truth. There's an agenda of all times. And so you have to be your own censor. You have to listen to that and say, yeah, that's probably not true. Or it's nice that they think that I'm a great filmmaker, but I'm only as good as the film I'm making right now. I'm no better than any of you. I struggle to tell a story. I struggle to find a story. I struggle to tell a story, to find the truth in the story, to direct it, to make it meaningful, to make it entertaining. It's a struggle. We're just artists. And when the moment you forget that, the moment you let ego take over, as we were talking about earlier, you're destroyed.
I know that you're working, actually, you do work simultaneously in not in just one project. But
yeah, I don't actually work on more than one project at a time. But the moment I'm finished in a day working on one thing, I'll start on another. So I can't write two things at the same time. But one right after the other, I could do three things in the same day. But you have to be able to throw yourself into that completely when you're doing it. I'm doing, 2 feature documentaries right now, and I'm writing a script for somebody else, and I'm planning a movie I just finished writing and direct. You have to have 5 or 6 projects going to get one project going. It's always hard to get financing no matter what, or you get enough financing to do it a way you don't want to do. You need more money to do it. Or you want to cast actors that aren't as popular in the box office, and so there's always a struggle. So you have to have at least 5 projects going, maybe 10, in order to get one thing going next year. Yeah.
No, we did an hour until now, so if no one...
What's the question that when you're going to get home you go, I wish I was brave enough to ask that question? Yeah, and I go, shit, I'm getting embarrassed, I'm in front of all these people, I'm going to sound stupid, and he's going to yell at me. What's the question about anything you're doing that could help? Yes. See, there's a brave girl. 3 questions. Good, I like you. Yeah, you're brave.
In the movie Crash, you talked about racism, and now it's 2017. Do you think that racism still exists in America?
No, I fixed the whole thing. Thank you for that. No, in fact, people have that joke. Yes, there's still racism after Crash. It's, like I was going to fix something. Yeah, of course, it's endemic. It's not just in America. It's endemic everywhere. And if it's not an obvious racism, it's intolerance in some way or another. It's religious intolerance. It's extremism. It's either based on the way we look or what we believe or what we think. Of course, I mean, there'll always be this because that's what, as human beings, we fight against. I read a lot about the subconscious, and it's so fascinating, the studies in the subconscious that we've, in the last 10 years, with the new VMRIs that you can put on your head and read what you're thinking. I was talking to a neuropsychologist and a neuroscientist just before I came, who is now doing experiments which they can actually show you your dreams. By, you know, when they do it on people whose skulls are open for an operation, they go in there, they get permission and put electrodes on their brain, and they can show you what they're dreaming. They can even do it now with a little less with on the skull itself. If they understand, if you go in for 2 weeks there, and then you sleep, at the end of that, they can show you paintings of what you're dreaming. It's amazing what we can read now. And so with that, we've discovered so much about the subconscious. And one of the things is this, our ability to band into groups, which we've known for many years, and identify our group as superior to someone else. There was a great study done back when they could do these studies, I think it was the 60s, in America, in which they took boys who were, you know, like, I think they were young, they were like 17, 16, 13, anywhere from 13 to 17. Identical. I think they were all white, all the same socioeconomic group, and there were 20 of them, and they just divided them arbitrarily. Okay, you 10 are Group A, you 10 are Group B. Now, Group A is going to live in this house over here, Group B is going to live in this house over here. It's like, you know, at a camp. And very quickly, Group B started to feel like, why are we inferior? Why are we B and they're A? And they started to hate Group A. And Group A, feeling superior, just because they were called Group A, started to pull tricks on Group B. And Group B said, fuck them. And they they learned to hate each other within no time at all, simply because they were identified as two different groups. And if you can do that with people who are, you know, the same religion, the same everything, the same, just by making them two different groups, that tells you so much about who we are as human beings, certainly about what's been happening here, but certainly what's happening everywhere. So if you can identify yourself differently by your skin color, well, that's easy. I'm Group A, you're Group B. And Group B is inferior to us. So, and Group B feels wronged. And then because the more we perpetrate against them, the more they feel wronged and the more they want to get revenge. And it's just human psychology, so it's going to happen forever. To fight against that is a lot what you're doing in this country here is saying, no, we're all the same. I'm sorry, things have happened, terrible things have happened, we're not forgiving them. Or at least we're not forgetting them, but we're forgiving them. And you do not deserve the forgiveness, but we're forgiving you anyways, like they did in South Africa. And you go, and suddenly you start to form together and you start to, and that's a very difficult thing to do, especially when real horrors, real terrible things have been committed. That's so difficult. It's so not human. It's not our instincts to do it, but boy, does it rise it up to our best. And when we in America have risen to our best under presidents like Kennedy and we pulled together, we did great things. And then when we in America are doing what we do now and saying, you know, we're good and you're bad and you're evil, and yet we divide into groups, terrible things happen and more terrible things are going to happen. So we have to rise past those terrible instincts we have, you know, in that subconscious. And we can do it. You can rise past it, but it's a conscious effort. It's a great deal of work. And so because of that, I think racism, intolerance, it's an easy thing. And we're always, as human beings, going to go for the easy thing. You know, you stepped on my foot, and therefore you're a bad person. You killed my family, you're a bad person. Of course you're fucking bad. We're not going to say you're not bad. But how do you get past that? How do you live? Because, like in the Valley of Ella, even the wronged, if they become the perpetrator, it destroys them. So I don't care about the people who are villains. I care about us. And for our own safety, for our own sanity, for our own self-interest, we have to rise above the demons that would cause us to perpetrate crimes, to become racist like we do in America, to become intolerant as happens everywhere around the world. It is so hard to do and yet so worth it, especially for artists. Artists always lead the way. You'll say that politicians do. No, politicians don't. Artists lead the way. And artists plant the ideas in the heads of people. Artists question the status quo. It always relies upon the artist to challenge what everybody knows to be right.
But can they make a real change by,
Yes.
by doing that?
Of course. One person can do anything. I mean, you look at Gandhi, and even though he wasn't even a politician, he was just a guy. One person changed a nation. One person. One person changed a world. It only takes one person, ever. And he had no power. None. The British Army had all the power. The most powerful country in the world at that time. One person brought down the most powerful nation in the world. That can be done. Martin Luther King, people who were willing to stand up, artists who are willing to say no, filmmakers who are willing to say no, this is what you should look at. Challenge your beliefs. Challenge what you know to be true. Challenge your father, your mother, challenge people you love. To look inward, to look for ourselves. Yes, absolutely, art is incredibly powerful. Dialogue in there, a lot of dialogue I pulled from this relationship I was having, this affair I had with this one woman, and then also with this woman I fell in love with, and then also what my ex-wife, because after reading this script, after writing the script after about a year, and I broke up with my wife, we'd left, etc., but I insisted on being her best friend still, which she just fucking hated me for. But after 6 months, yes, she realized we were going to be friends, and we truly loved each other, but as friends. And so after about a year, she asked me what I was writing, and she knew what I was writing, and she said, "Do you want me to read it?" And I went, "Oh, fuck." She reads all my stuff, but this one I wasn't going to let her read. It was so personal. And she obviously hated this woman a lot. And we weren't together, me and this woman at the time, but she knew the history. I said, "Yeah, I'd love you to read it, please." So she read it, and she called me, and she said, "It's good." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, it's really good." I said, "It must have been very difficult for you to read." She said, "Don't try to get sympathy, Paul. I'm sure I'll be reading this conversation in your next draft." And I went, "Oh, that's good." So I wrote that down. And that's exactly what Kim Bassinger says in the script. Exactly. Because, and so yeah, but in that case, I took 3 ways I tried to love a woman and put them into 3 different stories. And 3 different people, and 3 different things, and 3 different mistakes I made in the way I was trying to love, and told a story about that. But yeah, very, very personal. And still, I mean, if you want to know way too much about me, that's the movie you watch. But also, Crash is very personal, and The Valley Valley, they're all very personal. But this one is like, yeah, okay, I've just exposed myself completely. Yeah, that was hard. But that's what we do. We have to be brave enough to expose ourselves. People go, "You're just an asshole." And you go, "Yeah, I am." In fact, my ex-wife became a writer, became a playwright, and she was writing about the same thing in her play. And I was reading it going, "Oh, this is good." She was doing it as a comedy, and a very scathing comedy. And so I gave her notes on her play, and then she gave it to her girlfriends to read, and I was living in California then. And then after a few weeks, I remember going to get a coffee on the street, and I saw one of her girlfriends, and I waved to her, and she went, "You are an asshole." I went, yeah, I am. She said, "No, you're really an asshole." Yeah, I am. "But did you like the play?" She said, "No, it's very good." So yeah. Just stand up so I can, who's asking a question? Ah, hello, you're right there.
You've been telling about...
Hold it really close.
Yeah, you've been telling about...
Really close. I heard like this.
There
you go.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
Exposing yourself, how do you find the right distance? Because exposing yourself can be also dangerous or creative. So how to find the right distance and...
You don't. You don't find the right distance. Who was the great photographer? Who said, "If your photographs are not good enough, you're not close enough." I forget who that was. And it's the truth. In order to take a good photograph, often you have to get really close to the subject. In order to tell a good story, you have to get really close to that person, and it's often yourself. You have to turn the camera on yourself and get really close, and if it's not good enough, you're not close enough. And yeah, exposing yourself, yes, that's what I do. Third person is humiliating to me. It's actual dialogue. I said to someone else said to me, and she in fact claimed she wrote it. And I said, darling, just because you said the words doesn't mean you wrote the words. And it's like, yeah, yes, and it's embarrassing. And so is Crash in many ways, because even though people never knew it, I was talking about myself. You have to be willing to put yourself, to expose who you are. There is no such thing as being too close. You have to, only too close in that you don't really inspect yourself. You have to challenge everything you believe and know that everyone you care about is going to see it, is going to know it's you, and is going to judge you for it. That's your job. Your parents are going to know that you've had sex. You know, your boyfriend is going to know you cheated on him. Everything, you know, your father is going to know that you believe totally different things than he does. These people are going to know, and that's your job as an artist to reveal it and not. And we care. You have to care, and you have to do it anyway. There's no such thing to wait until it's safe. That's why you judge bravery in time of war or whatever. You know you're going to get killed, and you stand up and rush in. You know you're going to get killed, and you rush in. That's incredibly braver. If you thought you wouldn't get killed, you rush in. That's not brave. Oh, who cares? He's just running down towards some people who are making noise, bang, bang. No, those are bullets. You know, and you're going to get killed, and you rush in anyway. So it's the same with an artist. We have, it's not even as close as being in war, where you actually go, all we're going to do is expose ourselves. So it's not really that brave, right? You know.
Hi, thank you for your time with us here.
You're welcome.
Sergio Leone used to say that Clint Eastwood had two expressions, with his hat and without the hat. Was he right?
Say that again?
Sergio Leone used to say that Clint Eastwood had two expressions only, one with his hat and one without the hat. So, and this is back in the time of Spaghetti Western.
Yes, I know. Clint is a master of understatement. He could say so much with so little. I mean, and that's... I think that the people that said that didn't understand what we now understand about micro-expressions and the way that we can say so much with so little. You can see actors who just appear to be doing nothing, and yet they communicate so much. And then you see actors who act like this, and they're communicating so little because they're trying so hard. So no, Clint's a master of communicating. He just does it so subtly that you don't think he's doing anything.
I'm interested, how do you choose actors for your movies? What
sorry?
Actors that you want to act in your
How do I
movies?
choose? Wow.
How do you choose, and what do you
Sure.
find interesting? What is your best thing that really impacts?
Trust. Trusting an artist can do something you've never seen them do before. Sandra Bullock, when she did Crash, had never done anything like that. You trust. She's an artist. I talked to her. She believes she can do it. I know she can do it. I have faith. If you've seen them do it already, why would you want to see them do it again? So trust is what you have to, and trust in their abilities. Now, that's obviously, in order to get a movie made, you have to finance the movie. In order to finance the movie, you need to get people to give you money. In order for those people to give you money, they want to, they're risk averse, and so they say, well, you know, who's the famous person in the movie? You know, because I can sell this movie just on that person's name. I can sell it in Bulgaria. I can sell it in Spain. I can sell it in Japan. If such and such a person's in it, and if no one's in it, it's going to be very hard. So you have to balance that out depending on the size of your budget and what you need with who's in it. But you have to balance it because you want the right person. You want a real artist. But Crash, I needed all those people in it in order to get $6 million because I wasn't a name. I was a nobody. And so I needed all those people. It took me a year to put that cast together. And it was Brendan Fraser who actually made that movie go because he was very popular with George of the Jungle at the time. And that's who made that movie go. Sandy Bullock almost made it, but wasn't enough. I had to get Sandy Bullock and Brendan Fraser. And you think, oh, those great actors? Yep, that's who made that movie go. So sometimes it appears to make no sense, but I knew Brendan could do it, even though other people thought he couldn't. Yeah.
What to write. What I mean is, for example, me as a person, I think everything I do is interesting, and I want to tell everybody everything I do.
Really?
So, yes.
Wow.
So how do you pick, how do you choose and think that this will be interesting to other people?
See, I think I'm really uninteresting. And so I'm always looking for stories, someone else's story, because I don't think I'm interesting. As truth. I mean, I don't think I'm a dull person. I can tell a good story if I know what story to tell. But I don't have that life experience that someone else has. So I'm looking for someone else's life experience so I can steal it and then tell it well. So, and I think, I mean, yesterday I was walking down the street. I didn't tell anybody this. 7 or 8 times, at least 7 or 8 times, oh, maybe more. Yesterday I thought, fuck, what story am I going to tell? What story? Can I tell this story? How about that? With this? I didn't find anything yesterday, you know? And the day that I find something, I am euphoric. But it takes months sometimes for me to find something, because I'm not that smart. I look like I'm smart. I sound like I'm smart. I'm not that smart. It takes me a long time to find something. Go, ooh, that'd be a good story if I told it this way. And then once I have the idea, still, it could take me a year to figure out how to tell that story, what genre to tell that story in, what conflict, what setting. I don't know. So I'm always looking for it. Yeah. Sergio.
Still me.
Yeah.
You refer to yourself as an artist and to your movies as...
I don't know if I'm an artist. I aspire to be an artist, but I don't know if I am. And that's not humility, that's the truth. I think when you do a piece of work, if it has impact, if it's artistic, you're an artist. In that moment. The next day I could just be a journeyman, or a worker. I don't know. But I aspire to be an artist, yes.
So let's say in that precise moment you are an artist. Where I totally agree, yeah. And unfortunately the cinematographic quality of movies around the world are not exactly always your quality.
Artistic, mine as well.
So where do you place the demarcation line between directors, screenwriters, being artists, producing, doing some kind of...
Yeah, well you don't, because you can do that. I mean, when I took on the James Bond franchise, that was not art. It was a series of very, very successful movies, but no one would look at that and say it's art. But I decided to take it and to ask the same questions of that protagonist and of that genre that I'd ask of anything else, and I think I did a pretty good job. I think Casino Royale is art. I think it is. So, but did I know it was going to be that? No, I was terrified. But usually if I'm really scared, that's what I want to do. No, I just want to thank you all for welcoming me. Thank you for coming and sharing, this beautiful day with me, and for the work that you're going to make, which is going to inspire me and inspire the world. I want to be awed in the cinema when I see you, when I see a movie you wrote, that you directed, that you acted in, that you supported, that you shot. Anything, I want to be thrilled by the work you do. So get off your asses and go do it. And thank you very much for being with me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.